on a river gone canoeing. Anybody ever done that? A few of you? Anybody? A couple of you? Okay. What about whitewater rafting? Has anybody done that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. A couple of whitewater rafting. Okay. A lot of years ago. Good. All right. Well, I bring this up, earlier Susan's done white, Ryan done both. Absolutely. Cool. So I bring this up. I want to tell a quick story. It's something that I got a chance to do when I was a kid. So when I was, this summer we had the challenge to like go out and kind of bucket list item, go out and do something, experience life a little bit more. And it was to kind of push you guys just to experience something new, something different, create a little different perspective of what was possible. And some of you guys went out and did some cool things. We had people that went, I did skydiving. We had people that did rope courses and zip lines, and people that went out and did dolphin watching. People bought a car. Somebody went out and, dyed their hair, all sorts of different stuff. So Snake River in Wyoming, there you go, Forrest. That's the location of my story today too. So I bring this up. I had a chance to have a conversation with Bethany Hamilton over the weekend. I don't know if I mentioned to you guys, Bethany Hamilton's the one that, surfing, got her arm bit by a shark. She went out, still became world champion as a surfer. Anyway, I was talking to her, I was talking about family stuff, and I started remembering this trip that I had, this experience I had. So my dad, growing up, guys, my interactions with my dad, my dad was there, but my parents worked a lot. My mom was a nurse. My dad ran a locksmithing business. I remember, and I've shared this, like a handful of conversations, real in-depth conversations with my dad. I remember getting fast food with my dad. I remember him reading more than just about anything, right? I know I read a lot, but my dad, I remember looking at my dad and seeing his face buried in a book, or him laying on his bed in his room at the end of the night after work. I remember that more than just about anything. Not a whole lot of experiences with my dad, a handful. And some of you guys may have had parents that were more active or even less active in your lives, or not there at all. But one of the biggest experiences that I remember was this trip that we went canoeing and whitewater rafting. Now, I was a teenager. I was 16 at the time. We went with our scout troop, our local, the church congregation, all of the teenage boys my age, and then the dads, we all took off. So there's about, let's say 15 boys and 15 dads, ballpark. Maybe a couple more boys, because a couple of families had more than one son that age. So anyway, we all take off. We leave Arizona and we all drive up to Wyoming. And it's a multiple day thing. A couple of days they had cabins kind of set up in a couple of different places. And so we would, get in one cabin, we would canoe down to the next campsite, and kind of did like that. And so it was, here, let me show you guys some pictures so you can kind of get an idea. If you've never been, there's places, I don't care where you're at in the world, there's some amazing places around the world to visit. So this is can you guys see my screen? Yeah?
Yes.
So this is the Snake River here in Wyoming. And this is not a picture of me. I tried to look for some pictures. I couldn't find the ones that I have. I'll keep looking. But this was essentially the types of canoes that we had. This was kind of what it looked like for us. Except we all had, vests on, canoeing down the river. And so for a few days, this was kind of our view. And I remember seeing, bald eagles and moose and bears along the riverbed, and just this amazing trip. Now, we went in the middle of July, but the water was freezing because of snow runoff, right? So water was just over 40 degrees, maybe. It was absolutely beautiful. And we're going along. Now, what they tell you before you get in the water, one of the things, and we had practiced a few times in lakes nearby. I think Curtis was saying he'd done kayaking in a lake. That's one thing. Canoeing all day long is a little bit different. Your body, we hadn't trained for 8 hours, 10 hours of canoeing. We had gone out, in a canoe on a lake for 30 minutes and like, oh yeah, now I get it. Yeah. So yeah, Ryan, that was Snake River. So anyway, before you get in the water, one of the first things they tell you is when you're getting in, if something happens and you capsize, if you fall out of the canoe, there's ropes on the front, on both ends of the canoe. So they tell you there's a couple of things you have to remember. Number one, do not let go of your oar, your paddle, right? Don't let go of that. That's what's going to, like, you need that. Don't let go of that. Then they say, if you fall out, get a hold of your canoe. There's a rope on the front end, the back end, it'll turn itself around, but you can grab a hold of that rope and you want to do what you can to position yourself. So you kind of push the canoe a little bit so it's in front of you. So if you're going down the river, if anything comes along, the canoe is the first thing to hit the rocks or the logs or whatever. And they said, do everything you can to get on your butt and put your feet out in front of you for the same reason. If you're going down the river, you want your feet to hit what's in front of you, not your head. So went into, yeah, it is gorgeous, Nancy. That's so cool. So we got in the river, and I remember, we're going along, and maybe the second or third day, we came across, I don't remember the name of the rapids. It wasn't white water rafting. I'll show you. So there was one of the days that we did do some whitewater rafting, which absolutely looked like this. It was totally crazy. If you've never been, guys, I totally recommend it. It is so cool. It is amazing, scary as hell, but very, very cool. So, but we're going through rapids on the canoe. And when you're going down the river and you're in a canoe, they always show you in the movies. Normally they show you rapids like that. And most of the time it's a green screen, but we're going along, and, everybody is in front. I think we were one of the last of like 15 or 20 canoes. And there's us, and there's 3 or 4 different guides that are going along with us, right? Guys that have been up there since, early spring, beard's fully grown out. They're totally tanned up except for where their Teva sandals are. There's, just brown from being on the river every single day. And so we're going along, and every canoe in front of us starts doing this, just starts flipping over. And people are bouncing around, right, in the water. And sure enough, my dad and I'm in the front, my dad's sitting in the back. We're going along, and we capsize. So remember, you capsize, grab your oar, grab your paddle, get behind the boat, get the boat in front of you. So we get spun around. My dad goes flying by me. I don't know how he went from behind me, but all of a sudden my dad's in front of me. I get a hold of my paddle. I grab a hold of that rope with the canoe and end up like this. Face first, floating down the river. The canoe behind me, the exact opposite, on my belly, the exact opposite of what they tell you to do. And I just remember thinking, I think this is it. Like, I'm not going to last real long. And my dad's in front of me. And after just a minute, I see my dad go, like, he's bopping down the road, and he had on like this teal hat or something silly. I see my dad go, whoop, disappear, just suck down, gone. And I'm like, where is he? Don't see him pop back up. Right about then, here's a log jam right in front of me, and the boat's behind me. So I hit the log jam. The canoe comes in, spins like this, because of course it would, right? So the full force of the river is pushing this canoe against me, and I'm caught on the log jam. Water's flowing over my head. And, they talk about your life flashing before your eyes. It didn't for me. It was a very serene and peaceful moment for me. But my thought wasn't that. It was, I was imagining who was going to show up at my funeral. I don't know if any, and I know some of you guys have had some serious life or death situations. So I know this isn't, this is fun. The whitewater rafting part was fun. Overall, the canoeing, I enjoyed, Michael. I can look back now, almost 30 years later. But I that was the thought I was having, these friends, this ex-girlfriend that I had dated, redhead, different conversation, but would she show up? What about this? That was the thought I was having. After, I don't know, it seemed like a couple of minutes. It probably lasted 2 seconds. The canoe kind of pushes up, the water forces it up over me, up over the rocks. I didn't let go, so it dragged me along with it. So now I end up getting myself situated. And then soon after that, I see my dad pop up 100 yards further down the river than when he had dropped down. Turns out, so he had on a pair of like nylon pants that, cargo pants that you would pick up at, I don't know, Dick's Sporting Goods or something. And, the ones that have kind of like the ties at the bottom or the elastic. Well, they had filled up with water and acted like it just sucked him down. And he told me later, he thought he was going to, that was going to be his end too, until the river sucked his pants off of him. And so he canoed the rest of the day in his underwear. And he did not have great legs, but it was absolutely classic. But it was afterwards, that whole experience, it was fun, Michael, looking back now. I remember those moments. I remember, third or fourth day on the river, I remember my dad couldn't really move his arms anymore trying to paddle. And so I'm paddling the both of us because he had just gotten to the point where his arms had given out, right? He wasn't accustomed to working out. It was a time when he was not in great shape, and I remember him in the back of the canoe apologizing to me and saying, "Hey, we're going to come back at some point. We're going to come do this again. I'm going to get myself in shape and we're going to come do this." And yeah, very much a learning experience. And I remember, so many different lessons learned. And, hey, even the best laid plans, you may try and get the canoe in front of you in life. You may try and batter through all of these obstacles. And sometimes it doesn't matter. And you're going to go face first and hit the rocks and something's going to knock you over the side of the head. But as long as you keep your wits about you, you got a great chance of popping up down the river. Now, my dad, I told you guys this before, I was 21. So just a few years later, I was 21 when my dad passed away. He was 48. So we never got a chance to go back. But I'll never forget that experience. I don't remember every conversation we have. I don't remember a lot of the nights that we had sitting at home. I do remember that week, and I'll never forget it 30 years later. A lot of us give up opportunities and yes, that was the bigger experience, but I could imagine, and a lot of you guys probably can too, with parents, with friends, with your kids, certain nights when it was just you guys decided to go out for ice cream or go for a walk together or do something. Yeah, Ernie, absolutely. Totally agree. It's a plan that I've got to take my boys and do the same thing. But my point with all of this, guys, is there are experiences that we're leaving behind because we just said, I'll do it again soon. Right. There's opportunities, there's goals that you're leaving behind because you say, now's not the best time. I don't want to push myself now. Quit doing that. Decide to do some stuff, little things, big things right now. Reach out to as many people as you can and just tell them find one moment that you've shared with someone and tell them how grateful you are for it. I didn't get a chance to talk with my dad much about it after the fact. We did a few times. And, when I got back from Brazil, we had talked and he had gotten himself in better shape. And the plan was to go do that soon. And I got back, I've told you guys, I was a missionary in Brazil. I got back in March of 2001, July 1st, my dad passed. Oh, we never had time to plan another trip. You never know what's going to happen in life. So share that gratitude, reach out to people, find something to go do. Yeah, absolutely. Live for today, right? Sometimes it's the bigger event. Sometimes it's a big thing, opportunity for a luxury stay somewhere. Great. If it's just a road trip, you hop in the car with somebody. Awesome. If it's just the walk under a starry night with the family dog and you guys having a genuine conversation, then do that, whatever it is, and I say this right now because we're rolling into the season where whatever you celebrate, guys, Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa, anything else, anywhere in the world, even if you're not celebrating something right now, it's the end of the year. It marks a time of transition for all of us. Spend some time creating memories. Okay. That's all I got for you today, guys. I just want you to think, look back at some of the experiences you've had, reach out to people, talk to them about how great it was, look at creating some new ones, go out and have an awesome day. I don't say this as like a sad story. Like that was amazing. It was an absolutely amazing trip. And, I got a chance to make fun of my dad for years because he wore pants that got sucked off of him. He had to canoe the rest of the day in his underwear. I mean, that's awesome. I still laugh about that. Find a way to enjoy your life a little bit more, guys. Go out and have an amazing day. And on that note, I will see you guys soon. Take care, everybody. Sometimes people have what it takes, but they haven't recognized it yet. Just go forward. So what do you need to do? How do you stand out? So what you need to do is be that person that's different and is bigger than you think. Rise from the ashes and fly like the phoenixes.